Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. For today's class, Group 1 will be discussing or presenting the introduction to gender, language, and sexism. Miss Devi Montemayor will be discussing what is a gender, followed by the examples which will be given by my groupmates. So please listen and watch the video carefully.
Hi everyone! Good morning. This is JV Montemayor, and for today's topic, I will be discussing about gender. So let's start. Gender is the state of being male or female in relation to the social and cultural roles that are considered appropriate for men and women. An example of gender is referring to someone who wears a dress as a female, but nowadays people are being realistic and practical. Men can wear a dress and women can wear a jeans, vice versa. Another definition of gender is defined as the relations between men and women, both perceptual and material. Gender is not determined biologically as a result of sexual characteristics of either women or men, but is constructed socially. It is a central organizing principle of societies and often governs the processes of production and reproduction, consumption, and distribution. Despite this definition, gender is often misunderstood as being promotion of women only. However, as we see from the FAO or Food and Agriculture Organization definition, gender issues focus on women and on the relation between men and women, the roles, access to, and control over resources, division of labor, interest, and needs. So, I hope you understand this simple article about gender, or simple definition about gender. So, see you next lesson. Bye!
Hello everyone, I am Esperanza Bagiwan and I am going to discuss about the language, gender, and sexism. How are they related? Language and gender refers to the relationship between the language of a male and female. Gender difference is not only a reflection of the speeches between male and female, but also a reflection of their different lifestyle and attitudes. The difference between male and female in many aspects have been studied from different angles. Like, for instance, male are more concerned with power, they desire leadership, while females are satisfied with their subordinates' status. Males speak directly and take transferring information as first thing, but females speak indirectly or implicitly. For them, expressing feeling is very important. While sexism is a prejudice or discrimination based on a person's sex or gender. Sexism can affect anyone, but it primarily affects women and girls. It has been linked to stereotypes and gender roles, and may include the beliefs that one gender is distinctly superior to another.
Hello everyone, I'm Jenny De Salmos and I will be discussing the importance of gender to language. So first of all, let's define what is language and gender. Language is an important communicative tool in human society, and it involves with the development of the society. And gender describes the characteristics that society or culture delineates as masculine or feminine. If we look around, we might notice that for the most part, masculinity and femininity are represented in a number of different ways. From the way we dress, to how we put styles on our hair, all of these choices are sending a message about their own relationship in the social construct of gender, or how a person identifies themselves in relation to the categories of man and a woman. Gender is so tied to how we express ourselves that it can even impact the words we use every day. So if we observe, a man talks more seriously in a high voice. Unlike us women, we are mostly emotional in expressing ourselves, and sometimes we are more comfortable of communicating or interacting to the same group or gender. Therefore, the importance of gender in language or to language is that it identifies a man from a woman. So, through language, we can avoid inequality or discrimination to happen in the community or society. So, that's all for my report today.
Hi everyone, I'm Najiha Bragas. What I'm going to discuss for today is about language. So what is language exactly? And how will you communicate with people if you don't have language? So language is the simple tool that humans use to communicate among each other. So we use language to communicate with people. It might be in written form such as text, script, or etc. Or it might be in spoken words, and sometimes it might be in sign language or gesture, the body language. The use of language is so spontaneous or willingly that we take language too much for granted. But our life would be extremely difficult without language, if not impossible. So now let's see some definition about language. First definition in general sense, language means of communication. Like what I said lately, that we use language to communicate. Second definition is language is a system by which sounds and meaning are related. Third definition is language is a system or set of sounds, words, patterns, etc. used by humans to communicate thoughts and feelings. And lastly, language is the most sophisticated and available to human beings for the communication of meaning. So that's it.
The importance of language and sexism. The importance of language is to express our feelings, desires, and queries to the world around us. Language is also important to our daily lives. Language is more means of communication. Also plays an important role in development of a person's personality. Because communication is the one which drives our lives and make ourselves better. Sexism. Sexism prejudice or discrimination based on sex or gender, especially against women and girls. Although its origin is unclear, the term sexism emerged from the second wave feminism of the 1960s through the 80s and was most likely modeled on the civil rights movement term racism. Sexism can be a belief that one sex is superior to or more valuable than another sex. Sexism in a society is most commonly applied against women and girls. It functions to maintain particularly or make domination through ideological and materials practices or individual collectives and institutions oppress women and girls on basis of sex or gender.
Hi, I'm Jason Milucajo and today I'm going to discuss about the importance of learning sexism. Acknowledge that sexism is an issue and that it needs to be addressed. Learning sexism is important, especially to the women, to avoid discrimination. Because we know that sexism is happening in every school. That's why we need to learn sexism to be aware about it, or to the other people around us, especially to the men. We know that man is strong and women is weak. That's why man is sometimes man is taking advantage to the women's weaknesses. For example, men are less likely than women to notice unfair and sexist treatment directed toward women. When men do notice different treatment, they are less likely to acknowledge the event as sexist. This gender difference is important as the frequency or experiencing or observing sexism positively predicts confronting behaviors. The more one encounters and recognizes sexism, the more opportunities one has to confront.
Hello, I'm Adabel Mamatong and I'm going to discuss the relationship of language among gender and sexism. First, let's recognize the relationship of language to gender. Since gender is referring for both two sexes, the male and female, and the language has a big role in determining their differences. Like for instance, the name Pedro and Petra. It is clear that the name Pedro is a male and Petra is a female. Through their differences in using language, they have their own styles and way in expressing their thoughts. It is said that female usually talks smoothly and polite. They are emotional and expressive, while in male, it is directive and honest in such case. They usually use low tone with a loud voice that represents of strength. Even in interacting with peers, there's also differences. The way they start and end the conversation is vividly different in levels. Hence, the relationship of language and gender can determine the differences of women's speech and men's speech. Also, women's language and men's language due to styles, registers, and the way of using language, interaction, thoughts, culture, and the like. Language helps us to see the differences of men and women that lead us to understand the role of each other and to have a better relationship. While in sexism, there is called sexist language that refers to words and phrases that ignores or stereotype members. In short, it is form of biased language. For example, in job title, we usually address the officer as policeman, which is man is being recognized, and if we address as policewoman, of course women is being recognized. So in order to avoid offending the both parties, we should better address them as police officer. Another is that in pronoun that denotes a single sex when the information being conveyed pertains equally to either or both sexes. For example, in the sentence, every student should have his notebook with him in class.
Hello everyone, I would like to tell the description of sexism. Sexism was a discrimination based on a person's sex and gender. It can affect anyone, especially women and girls. It was a behavioral condition or attitudes that foster stereotypes of social roles based on sex. Example was that when a men are abusing their partners regarding in sexual intercourse, especially when the woman doesn't like it or doesn't have the mood to do it. In this case, she will be treated unrespected and unworthy by his partner's doings.
Thank you guys for listening to our report, and I hope you understand the report presented by my classmates, and you know that language actually has a big role in our society. Without language, we can never exchange our thoughts to someone, and that's all. I hope you do take note to our report, and hopefully that you can also use that on your teaching someday, and for giving knowledge to someone that maybe serve as an additional input to you. Thank you for listening.